Welcome to the Gaggle, where we bring you inside the newsroom to talk politics in Arizona and beyond. This week, Governor Doug Ducey flew through his first special session on opioids, but will the policies work? Ron Hansen moderated an Arizona Republic debate, two actually. We'll get his key takeaways. And a Native American lawmaker wants to officially have an observance day for Native Americans. Maria, tell us about that proposal.
So Senate Bill 1235 is seeking to establish Native American Day in Arizona on July 15th. Senator Jamasita Peshlikai, who is a Democrat, also Navajo, has been trying to get this through for several years now, different attempts with different dates. So this one would establish the holiday on July 15th, would recognize contributions of Native Americans, the bill says, in light of injustices and genocide.
Does she feel as though Native Americans' contributions are underappreciated, or what's really motivating this?
So she feels that given that Arizona has one of the largest Native American populations in the U.S., that this is long overdue. A lot of other lawmakers agree with her. And actually the day that she ended up picking, July 15th, is the anniversary of an Arizona court decision giving Native Americans the right to vote, which only happened in 1948. So it hasn't even been that long that they had the vote in this state.
Well, another vote could or could not happen. This one would involve legislation by another Native American Democratic lawmaker who wants to ban certain logos from publicly funded stadiums or arenas. Tell us about that.
So stadiums and multi-purpose facilities, this legislation would require those facilities to prohibit displaying, as you said, any logos, terms, I assume that would include team names, considered disparaging to Native Americans, but it sort of puts the onus on Native American tribal leaders to notify the facility if that's the case.
And because that bill just dropped, it's unclear how that will play out, but it certainly will start a conversation. Right. And Mr. Hansen, your moderating of two debates in CD8 certainly caused a lot of conversations about the different candidates. What are your key takeaways?
What was striking to me about the Republican debate was how little daylight there was between these folks. They're all vying for the Republican nomination. They want to lay claim to being most ardent supporters of the president and his agenda, that sort of thing. We tried as best we could to ferret out like any differences on issues like what to make of the special counsel. Is this something that should be viewed as an impeachable offense if there were any interference with his work, or is this something that is the president's discretion? And almost uniformly among the Republicans, they really sort of towed the line that they are supportive of the president and they want to lay claim to, title of most supportive of him. The Democrats that we talked to, really there was kind of an interesting mix. They disagreed on some issues. They were mostly the same. The problem that they had was just being together. They really just didn't seem to enjoy each other's company much.
You got to witness that firsthand before the camera started rolling. What happened?
Well, yeah. So before the debate, there was some, relatively benign chatter between the candidates, and it just became clear that Brianna Westbrook and Harold Tiperneni just do not really have a lot in common, other than the D name that follows them on the ballot.
We're going to plug the podcast. Tune in there if you want to hear more on that. Dustin, Governor Doug Ducey called a special session on the opioid epidemic. He got rave reviews by some for saying, this he's taking this important issue very seriously. He wanted a quick win, wanted it done. It, showed that he was prioritizing this issue. But he caught a lot of criticism too. Take us behind the scenes.
Yeah, so on the surface, the legislature was very united about this. The votes were unanimous in the House and the Senate. They pushed this thing through very quickly. The governor called a special session on a Monday. They passed legislation by Thursday night. It was the latest night of the session so far. But aside from that, outsiders, often a lot of people in the medical community and also the conservative Cato group, they blasted the plan because they said it was rushed through, and the lawmakers and the governor really didn't think through some of the consequences of dosage and prescription limits and the impact that could have on patients with chronic pain. And there's also just criticism that other aspects of the law, for example, like the Good Samaritan provision that would allow someone to report an overdose and not face prosecution from law enforcement for drug use, there's a loophole in that would allow law enforcement to go after them for other crimes if they respond. And so critics said that also is a potential weakness of the package.
How did this help or hurt Ducey politically?
You know, it's election year, and rushing this through and getting, you know, that very big bipartisan photo op, I think the governor's office probably sees that as something that will definitely help him. But, you know, we got a lot of emails and calls from patients the day after that were very upset about this. So I think he got the photo op, but there might be some fallout from patients and doctors going forward.
I know, we'll be following that. This week on the Gaggle, something a little new. Who are we waiting to hear back from? Calls out to people, Maria.
So I will have what is certain to be a very exciting call with federal census officials. Again, actually talking about some issues with making sure that they accurately count the Native population.
Who won't call you back, Mr. Hansen?
I want to hear from former State Senator Steve Montenegro. We want to go over some of the questions that were asked at the debate and see if we can get a more full explanation. So.
I'm waiting on callbacks from Koch-affiliated groups. Governor Doug Ducey said at the Koch summit that he didn't run for governor to play small ball, and they're going to, I think, sink a lot of money into trying to uphold the expansion of the school voucher style program. Stay tuned on that. Call me. Dustin.
I'm waiting for a call from Republican Senator Nancy Barto. She's sponsoring a very controversial abortion bill and has not returned my call, so call me back.
Thanks for tuning in. We'll see you next week.